After hanging up his coat, Ethan calls to Xena but receives no reply. He goes up the stairs and opens her door, revealing a nearly dark room. Still wearing her traveling clothes, Xena sits silently at the window. When Ethan informs her that supper is ready, she says she has no appetite. Xena cuts short Ethan's attempts to make small talk by announcing that she is much more ill than he thinks. She tells him that in the interest of preserving her health, she has engaged the services of a new hired girl, who will arrive the following afternoon. Ethan becomes angry at this unforeseen expense, and a raging war of words ensues between him and Xena. After a bitter haggle regarding Xena's condition, in which she insists that she lost her health nursing his mother, Ethan resolutely declares that he lacks the funds to employ a hired girl. But, in so doing, he is caught in his own lie about the advance he had been planning to collect from Andrew Hale. When Xena points out Ethan's inconsistency, he is somewhat shaken. Xena then further agitates Ethan by announcing that Maddie has burdened the household for too long and will have to leave. With Maddie's board freed up, Xena explains, they will be able to scrape together enough money for a hired girl after all. Just at that moment, Maddie calls up from the landing to announce that supper is waiting. Xena replies by declining her supper, and Ethan sends Maddie downstairs, promising to follow shortly. Turning back to Xena, Ethan lamely attempts to defend Maddie. Xena refuses to listen, proclaiming that with the hired girl's arrival, Maddie must depart. Ethan fumes with hatred, but he stops himself from expressing it. Instead, he retreats from the bedroom as Xena prepares to lie down for the night. In the kitchen, Maddie brings a meat pie to the table, and she and Ethan once again sit down to supper alone. Ethan assures Maddie that everything is fine, but his disgust makes him unable to eat, and his dark mood produces a new wave of anxiety in Maddie. As she questions Ethan further, he rises from his seat and moves around the table to her side. With a trembling perplexity, Maddie leans toward him. As if to resolve matters, Ethan takes her into his arms and kisses her fully upon the lips. She remains in his grasp for a moment and then draws back to make sense of the situation. With a violent outburst, Ethan declares that Maddie must not go. Confused at first, Maddie soon catches his meaning and realizes that Xena intends for her to be replaced. After sitting in silence for a while, they forlornly begin to discuss Maddie's bleak prospects for future employment. Filled with indignation, Ethan exclaims that he means to protect Maddie from dismissal and expulsion. No sooner have the rebellious words erupted than Maddie raises her hand in warning. Xena comes in and quietly takes her seat at the table between Ethan and Maddie. Citing her need for nourishment despite her lack of appetite, Xena starts eating her meal. Ethan sits motionless, and Maddie attempts to make polite conversation. The cat rubs up against Xena, and she strokes it and feeds it a scrap of meat. After finishing her meal, Xena rises from the table to find some old stomach powders. Maddie begins clearing the table, and Ethan muses that he will go outside to watch the nightfall. At the door, he meets an indignant Xena on the verge of tears, holding the shards of the pickled dish in her hand and demanding an explanation. When pressed, Ethan blames the accident on the cat. Rushing to Ethan's defense, Maddie explains that she had taken the pickled dish down to decorate the supper table. Xena reprimands Maddie for her sneakiness and declares that she should have turned her out long ago.